It's New Year's Eve, and this is and it's after 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., and it's Bless Radio. It's a spiritual discussion program. I'm waiting for my two colleagues to join me, Gregory and Mena. I think we just got to check that the system is working for them. So yes, welcome listeners. It's New Year's Eve tonight. And of course, we're going to be celebrating Happy New Year. So I want to wish you all Happy New Year. Hope you're well. And as I said, I'm hoping to get my two colleagues to join me soon. Just having some equipment issue there. Hopefully we can get them soon. So, as usual, listeners, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdrushin. And we have a new topic every week. The topic tonight, you won't be surprised to hear, is Happy New Year. So, I wish you all Happy New Year. And if you have any questions or comments, you can join in. The number to contact us here in UK, it is in the 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Maybe you didn't get your dad. Let's see if we can get my two colleagues. They said it's okay. Let's go again. Let's try one more time. Apologies, listeners. There's always a little technical issue, not always, but sometimes there's technical issues, and I'm hoping we can resolve it now. Just waiting for my two colleagues to join me online. That's Gregory and Mena. While we are waiting, I'm going to read you a text about what is the Grail message. The Grail message in the light of truth by Abdrushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abdrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits. Let me say that again. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author, Abrushin. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, as you know, it's New Year's Eve tonight, and the topic we have chosen for today, it is Happy New Year. You can join in with any questions or comments. The number to contact us, our UK number is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. I'm afraid we're having some issues with my 2 colleagues to join, technical issues, I would say, for my 2 colleagues to join online. So I'm going to try and get that resolved. So I want to, I did a bit of research about the new year, or the calendar, let's say, and we know this year is 2019. It is the Gregorian calendar that we use nowadays, or it's not nowadays, it's a long time since we've been using it. And I just thought I would give you a little bit of background about that. So this Gregorian calendar, it is developed from the Julian calendar, which was introduced by Julius Caesar in 46 BC, before Christ. And then in 1582, Pope Gregory the 13th in 1582 introduced the Gregorian calendar, which adapted the calendar to correct it to match the actual time of the equinoxes, which were because the Julian calendar was not accurate enough. So I know that's a bit technical, but it's just a bit of history, a bit of background, just to know where we stand today. Now, we just celebrated Christmas, which was last week, 25th of December, and we had our show on Christmas Eve. And then you think this calendar is, is sort of introduced by the Pope Gregory, as I said. Yeah, it's internet. It's very weak. Yeah, it keeps going yellow. So, sorry, go on. So as I was saying, we celebrated Christmas last week, and so the new year is still based on Christ. And again, I checked, did a bit of research on it. So it's just about, as I said, 1 week ago. So the reasoning for the new year being 1 week after Christmas Day is basically it's marking the circumcision of Jesus Christ and his giving him his name, which took place 8 days later. So that's how the new year is 1 week after. 1 week after the Christmas Day. All these things, as we know, is not really thought about anymore. And I mean, today people are getting together. You can see in London, loads of people are coming to celebrate. Basically, it's going to be like a party mood, revelry and drinking and so on and so on. But that's not very spiritual way to celebrate. So I want us to think about the spiritual aspect of this, what is the new year meant to be and what it's meant to be about. The other thing which you can say is probably a good thing is people also make resolutions, new resolutions, although we know it's not easy to keep those, but it sort of helps us to focus. And the other thing is, it gives us an opportunity when a year has passed to review what's happened in that last year, and maybe learn from things that happened and do things better in the new year. So that's another aspect we can discuss tonight. So talking about this, what the general public does, which is celebrating like in a very sort of light-hearted way, with entertainment, fireworks, drinking, and just having fun, you could say. I would say that's just, of course, the majority do that, but there must be something behind it as well, which most of us, I will say, we do it at this unconscious level, that we don't go deeply into why things are happening. And it's important that we do reflect on the spiritual purpose of what is this new year about. So I'm just checking if we're going to get our colleagues. Do you think we can have them back? Hopefully. Okay, so we're still working on that, listeners. What I'm going to do is, normally Gregory would be here by now. So while we're still waiting for Gregory to join, I had a question for Gregory. The first question was, what is the significance of the new year? As I mentioned, it marks 1 week after Christmas Day, and 1 week after Christmas Day, Jesus was named and was circumcised. So that's again celebrating Christmas, you can say. So what is that all about? I will say, why did Jesus come? He came to guide man, to save himself from sin, and also to be guided to live aright on this earth and to actually fulfill our purpose. So what actually is our purpose? What did he come to, what are we saving ourselves from? So basically, I will say, since man came onto this earth, he's always had messengers of God coming to guide him. And somehow, we still seem to go astray. And yet God has keep sending future messengers. And we still don't listen to them. And in the end, it got so bad that how far we have sunk, that somebody, let's say, much higher than the messengers that we had already, human messengers that we had, Jesus was sent as the Son of God, somebody who's very powerful, somebody, directly from God, who can lift us from the path we have taken. And so being also the love of God, he was able to, when he spoke with us, it was very powerful that how he touched us. Like he said, love thy neighbor as thyself. So this is something I will say, he came to show us the basics of how we want to be together, living together on this earth. And when we recognize those things, okay. So apologies for the little gap there, listeners. So basically, Jesus was sent as an emergency, really. If we really recognize what that means, the previous prophets could not touch us anymore. and something, well, basically divine had to be sent to lift us out of this disastrous future that we were going to have. And that's, of course, 2,000 years ago now. So what does that mean? Where are we at now, 2,000 years later? Are we have changed our course, or are we still, let's say, are we still heading in a downward direction or in a disastrous direction? Well, one of the things you notice in the world today, I mean, it's big in the news right now. In Australia, they're having these big fires. It's covered the whole of Australia in the terms of, not whole of Australia in terms of the whole of Australia, but all over Australia. And it's become quite serious. There's just not enough. There's been such a drought. There's no rain, so it's so dry that nobody can actually. There's not much can happen unless nature changes its course there, and this has never happened before. And in general, we know this 2019. There's been a lot of talk about climate change, where people don't seem to be wanting to change their ways in a very strong way. They just seem to think, oh, economy is more important, we must keep jobs and everything like that. And just these things will just work themselves out by themselves later. And because it doesn't seem like an emergency at this moment, at least for most people, not many people are changing their ways, or at least the big, let's say, governments and so on. They're still working as if, well, I won't say everything's okay, but at least it's not urgent. So I'm going to use that as something as a example of the time we live. We've become complacent and not actually realize how serious the situation is. And I'm talking not only the environment now, but also in the spiritual sense. So, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to read something from the Grail message. It's a lecture called A New Law, which sort of paints a picture of the situation we are in. So let me go and do that now. A New Law. This is from the Grail message, as I said. I have told you, at your desire, you are allowed to wander through the creations, thereby becoming self-conscious. But in so doing, you must not harm others in order to satisfy your personal desires. There is nothing in creation you would not be allowed to enjoy in the sense in which creation gives it to you, i.e., for the same purpose as that for which it is developed. However, you do not know the real purpose of so many things, and erroneously commit many excesses which are bound to bring harm instead of benefit. Thus the desire to taste, to get to know, and to enjoy often increases until it becomes a propensity, which finally keeps you enchained and quickly enslaves your free volition, so that through your own selves you become servants instead of masters. Never let yourselves be subjugated through enjoying, but take only what is necessary in life on earth for the maintenance and development of the good things entrusted to you. Hello, Gregory, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to the show. And let me check if Mena is there as well. We need to bring him in. He's there. Okay. Mena, are you there? I can't see him. We've got to add him on. Gregory, we started the show. Apologies for the technical issues. I think we're back now. So I've just to catch you up. I have read the introductory text of the Grail message, and I welcome the listeners. And of course, the topic tonight is Happy New Year. And then I've given a little bit of an intro about the topic, and then I thought I should read something from the Grail message relating to that. So I've started reading the first part of okay, I think we have got our other colleague now. Let me see if we can add him on. 1 second. Gregory, can you hear me?
Of course I can.
You can hear me. Okay. All right. Good. 1 second. I'm just going to add Mena. 1 second. Let me go and add him.
See, it's not on Wi-Fi. It's just direct.
Okay.
So when it goes on Wi-Fi,
Okay. Let me just add. 1 second. I'm just going to add this person now. Oops. Okay. Right, we should get him now. Gregory, can you tell us where you are today and how is the weather where you are?
Well, I'm in Brussels and it's cold.
In Brussels and it's cold there. Okay. I'm here in London, in North London in the studio, and it's cold as well. Well, not really cold, just a bit mild, I would actually say, not that cold. And it's a little bit damp. Okay. Have we got Mena now?
Yes,
Welcome, Mena. Sorry for the technical issues. How are you? Where are you? And how is the weather where you are?
Yeah, I'm still in the heartland, and the weather has been, well, a bit wet and a little bit of sunshine, intermittent sunshine.
Okay, good. Welcome. I just want to also catch you up. Basically, the topic tonight is Happy New Year.
Yeah.
And I just mentioned about the calendar, the Julian and Gregorian calendar that we use currently. And also just to let you know, because last week was Christmas, right? 25th of December. And this is 1 week later. We're celebrating the New Year. And in my little bit of research, I found that 1 week later was when Jesus was given his names and circumcised. So that in a way is a little bit of what background of that New Year. So marking the New Year. And also I mentioned that most people, the way they will be celebrating tonight is, it's like parties, revelry, getting drunk and so on like that. And of course our aim is to go into the spiritual understanding of what this celebration is supposed to be. And there's also some good things that people do as well. They make New Year resolutions, and maybe even they review what's happened in the past year so that they can do something better this New Year. So there's quite a few things there that we can talk about. So Gregory, can I start with you now? I think we have got everybody online now.
Yeah, before we start, I'm sorry to interject.
Yeah.
Can I just give you a synopsis? A synopsis of what the author himself regards as New Year.
Okay.
Let me read. Yeah. So, New Year, 1935.
Mm-hmm.
A new year. At the turn of each year, people ask themselves, what would the new year bring me? One person, when he hears the New Year's Eve bells, will ask quietly and earnestly by himself. Others do so apprehensively, with woes in their hearts, while many joke frivolously and laugh exuberantly in merry company, or in a state of intoxication, wantonly challenge fate in order to recklessly remove the veil, ready to meet defiantly what is in store for them. A great many, however, harbor in their hearts grudges, envy, and hate towards their fellow man, whom they begrudge anything good. Secretly they ponder mischief and destruction. Vengefully they forge plans to be realized in the new year. Only few, very few people quietly fold their hands in humble prayer in order to approach God in spirit with a sense of gratitude for the merciful guidance throughout the old year. Gratitude for still having been able to experience suffering and joy which awakened their spirit or permitted it to mature further in recognition. Such are the muddled waves of thought forms at the start of the new year, a mixture of poison and frivolity, superficiality, all sorts of desires, and greed for power, using lies and deceptions. But one thing is missing: the pure yearning for true peace that is rooted in humility and reverence for God, yearning for peace for the sake of peace. This yearning man no longer bears within himself, for he can no longer be without self-serving thoughts. God's last call to mankind has gone unheeded again. Men go on living under the delusion that everything on earth should conform to their will, even the Lord, their God, to the extent that they even acknowledge Him. Now the new year has arrived, a year that will bring them the surprise as well as the experience that their will means nothing before the all-powerful will of God, which forced them to their knees, breaking any and all resistance. People will cease to willfully carry suffering out into the world because they will have to defend themselves in desperation against the pressure of the returning streams, the fruits of their own wrongdoings. The year that is starting tomorrow brings gross material releases which are visible to mankind, tangible and physical. No one can pass them by heedlessly any longer, as has been done in the past, nor spiritual happenings. There will be great lamenting everywhere, in all the lands, and the words which I have spoken warningly in recent years will be fulfilled. They will be fulfilled, each and every word. Now, how often has mankind mocked and ridiculed me because I warningly spoke many a word that did not appear to be fulfilled immediately. Adherents turned lukewarm and started with doubt because of this, and some who were well-meaning advised me that it would be better not to speak of such things, as doing so would only diminish or even completely destroy the value of the teachings. These clever people had no idea that I had to speak in this way, that it was fulfillment on my part, that I could not heed human opinion, no matter whether their thinking is in regard was hostile or friendly. I could heed neither their mockery nor their hostilities, and how to endure everything and even calmly watch as many an adherent who had great prospects for service to the grail turned away from me on this account. For I had to continue to speak in this way because it was fulfillment on my part, and it was for the purpose of this fulfillment that I came to earth. People did not know, nor did they believe that I am the living law myself, as well as the living word, the word of God, which does not prophesy but is creative, primarily creative, deed. And if the whole world had continually showered me with scorn and derision,
Sorry. Can we freeze this in out?
Yes, Mena, I think it's not good to read the whole thing right now. So we should just stop now and start this like a discussion now. So if that's okay, I'm gonna just start with the questions now. But thank you for the reading, because that's important what you've given. So yeah, let's discuss what has been said. Okay, let's do that, because it's quite a long reading as well. So Gregory, if I can bring you in there. So what Mena just read out, it's a writing of Prushin there, and basically he's pointing to the frivolity which I mentioned earlier of how mankind normally celebrates, rather than recognizing the spiritual aspect of what this celebration should be, New Year should be about. So what I want to ask you is there actually a significance in a new year? Let's start with that. Is there something significant that happens when there's a new year? And if so, what is the significance?
As is expected, a new year is a new beginning in the revolution of Earth around the sun, and it's just like we have a new day in which new opportunities to mature, to experience physically in our movement. So also you have it in the new year. At the beginning of the day, you do not expect people to be drunk and lounging around without plans. At the beginning of the day, you have plans of what you intend to accomplish for the length of the day. In a similar fashion, at the beginning of the year, one should have plans on what one intends to accomplish. For if there are no plans at the beginning of the day, how will one then pursue one's course knowingly? So in a similar fashion, one should also have plans to be able to accomplish some task knowingly for the new year. So it is quite significant. As you have in a day, so you also have in the year. Although in a day, the number of tasks are much reduced and simpler as compared to that of the year.
Thank you for that. And now there's living on earth, we have earthly, let's say, aims and goals, and then we also knowing that we are spiritual beings, we also have spiritual goals, or we are supposed to have spiritual goals and aims. So now, okay, let's start like this. Should the earthly goals, when we make earthly goals, let's say, should we look at the spiritual sort of goals first and try to make them align with the earthly goals, align with the spiritual? So what I'm basically saying, should we make our spiritual plan first, and then the earthly, or can we just keep them separate? We have a spiritual aim, and we also have an earthly aim. Yes. What do you? How should we go about this sort of plan or aims?
The biggest problem the biggest challenge has always been the separation of the spiritual from the earthly. I'm thinking, okay, first I have to fulfill this earthly goal before I look at the spiritual. That has never been the aim, the task before us. The spiritual comes first. In the fulfillment of the spiritual, some things are necessary that has to also be accomplished. That is where the earthly comes in. For, like you mentioned, the personality is of spirit. And in order to experience here on earth, it requires a physical body. Therefore, in order to accomplish the spiritual task, the physical body, which is a tool that is used for experiencing, must be kept in line. Not only the physical body, also the intellect. So the physical body is more of an executive instrument. It has to be kept in a state where it's able to perceive what the driver, that is of the spirit, what the driver requires that it should accomplish. That is where the earthly comes in. That means that the physical body and all the earthly things have to be put in place. But they should not take precedence. It is the spiritual needs that comes first. But the problem for many is distinguishing how things should be. Should we say, okay, we're going to define, we need to eat first, and we need to go to school first, we need to... All these are basically to keep the instrument in optimal form, such that the spirit can then experience.
Thank you for that. In fact, I'm just going to remind listeners, dear listeners, you're listening to the New Year's Eve spiritual discussion program, the last day of 2019. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And obviously, New Year is just approaching, so we have picked the topic, Happy New Year. And you can join in the discussion with any question or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 313 66. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Now, Gregory, following on from what you've been saying, we're talking about spiritual goals and earthly goals, and the spiritual comes first, as you've said. So let's look at those things. What exactly are we meant to be, from the spiritual sense? What should we be striving for? What should we be striving for spiritually?
The first task of the personality is to clarify within himself, such that he's able to identify when the human intuition speaks, or when the impressions that streams out of the spirit. That is the first task. As long as he's unable to identify that and act accordingly, then all else becomes failure. So it's no use declaring this is my spiritual task when one is not even listening to one's intuition or the impressions that assail one. That has always been the first and only task. Once that is accomplished, or one man, as long as man strives to recognize that these impressions are impressions of the spirit, then the human intellect hopefully will adapt itself accordingly, and then things will dovetail. Then there will be harmonious cooperation between the human intuition, and the intellect. That is the task that man needs to accomplish first before he starts even considering any spiritual plans. For many, almost all, do not even understand when they mention spiritual plans. For the impressions that come from the spirit come first. Only when that has been recognized may one even talk about, in quotes, spiritual plans. Or, on the other hand, the spiritual plan is first to recognize the voice of the spirit.
Thank you for that, Gregory. And you know what I think of, when people wish each other good wishes, like to have love, peace, and happiness, that's normally what people send each other, and have a prosperous new year. This is like this very common thing you hear. And of course, you can see that is also spiritual there, because we all need love, peace, and happiness. That's how we can say, let's say, feel alive in a way, or feel happy to do things in life. That's how we can do things. So that's one of the things. And you've pointed out that we have to use our intuition to discover, our, let's say, purpose and tasks that we have to do. So I know that there's always a longing, as I said, with this wish of having love and peace and happiness. That you could say is in every person. So can I ask you, Gregory, why is that longing there? It all sounds very nice to have love, peace, and happiness. Yes. What is behind that? Because it sounds lovely words, but what is behind that we have this longing for that?
That longing has always been there. The challenge has always been, when you hear of love, what concept has man got about love? At best, intellectual attraction. What about peace? At best, a situation where no work is done, indolence. So, whereas from a spiritual standpoint, love is quite different. Peace is also quite different. Peace is not the absence of activity, but the presence of vigorous, incisive activities, which activities are upbuilding without besmirching other people. Now, how many are able to picture that and then strive after that? Because it demands much more from the personality. So the concepts, that of love, which is not separated from justice, the concept of peace, which is filled with harmonious strivings, where no one is left behind or punished, all this have been distorted. So they wish it only remains a wish, but they do not strive after that. Whereas to strive after love, to strive to accomplish peace, these are spiritual tasks in which the physical instrument that man needs for experiencing here on earth with physical body is then compelled, not the war cries that one hears now and then within one's intellect, seeking for revenge, seeking destruction of other people, and only in such will they rejoice that their enemies have been destroyed. Yet, it should not be forgotten that the message of Christ, when he was asked, "And who is my neighbor?" he gave the precise example of who a neighbor is. He did not go back and say, oh, this particular person had sown terrible things and therefore he deserved to reap terrible things. He went ahead and explained what a neighbor should be. That person who is in harmony with not only his neighborhood or with people around him, but who, like others, is like all for one and one for all. All these things are made very clear. However, in human interpretation, these things have been terribly distorted, that one seeks in vain. However, that inner longing of striving to understand it aright is always there. The spirit is the one that is doing the longing, wishing that the human intellect will comply and fulfill as Christ has mentioned. So that inner activity, that inner emotion is there. That emotion is there. Stirring up that which is perfect. Trying to draw the human spirit from the everyday distorted interpretation. Trying to make it move, to strive after that which is genuine, which requires much discipline than has ever been expressed.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Mena,
Okay.
you want to come in?
Yes, I would want to come in. It's also very important that when we discuss such topics, especially those that have been given by the Lord Himself, we take a premise from what He has presented, so we don't contradict His work. So that's why I was trying to give an insight of what the author explains as a new year. And
may I come in, please?
Can I
It's an
finish?
assumption.
Can I finish?
Yes, okay, go on.
And he actually gave a picture of how man prepares himself for the new year with thoughts of grudges, envy, and that insight to face all what has passed and build up a picture for the future. But he clearly states in the work, which I would also advise everyone to read, that the new year brings a return of His word, and that is the judgment. So that is what man should also, should look out to the new year. He said, the new year brings the return of my word, thereby the judgment. So each year you come across a reoccurrence of His words, which He has already said will be fulfilled to the letter completely. And this is how we should, recognize the new year. He'd also made very clear that we lacked one thing, that yearning for peace, that humility, that should, yearn with it, that should build up within an individual for peace, for the sake of peace, is what man lacks. But is already concerned with self-serving thoughts. He also made mention of the fact that in the new year, what actually is paramount for every individual is to look up, to actually build himself up, or to prepare himself to give that thanks, for the year that has gone by, and to welcome the sufferings, the pains that has, that will come, that will make him realize and develop his spirit in the new year.
Thank you for that, Mena. It's, I think there's a lot what you have said there. So we should just go slowly and look at it. So I mean, what you said, just to clear what you said a little bit there. Did you say that every year there's a new judgment? Did you say something like that?
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, it says a return. That's what it says. Yeah,
There's a
the new year brings a return of my words, and thereby the judgment.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we know. Okay. So
It
let's.
says, that's why I wanted to read, everything through. It says, consider carefully. Not one of my words has been lost. Everything is alive, and is now closing in on mankind, fulfilling that which it contained, that is contained in these words.
Yes. So let's look at that. Gregory, many times we talk about the natural laws. One of them is always this, if I put it in my words, law of action and reaction in the scientific way, or law of reciprocal action as it is described in the Grail message. And Mena, what you talked about judgment there, how I see that is that we do an action, or what you sow, as Jesus said, what you sow you shall reap. So you plant something, and then there's a result from planting, there's a harvest. And so if I understand you correctly, Mena, that you're saying we are reaping what we are sowing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we could only. That's what I'm saying. I could only say that we could only take a premise from what the Lord has pictured or encapsulates as what a new year entails. And that is it. It just says it is a return of my words.
Mm-hmm.
Just
So,
judgment.
So let's, maybe we should, I mean, all these things, how I look at it is, as I started earlier, Gregory, I mentioned about people reviewing the past year, what they've done in the past year, and then, like you say, make plans for the new year. And so, of course, every action, we know there's a consequence. When you do something, there will be a consequence for that. So, okay, so and let's look at that, Gregory. Should we look at? Yeah, let me go and ask this question.
Yeah, it goes on to say
Mena, do you have a question? Do you have any question?
Okay, question. Sorry, you just clarifies the fact that what we have to open ourselves to in the new year is peace, for the sake of peace. Yeah, I mean, there are things we always strive for, as you know, we intellectualize, this new year as, the coming of, prosperity, new prosperities and all that. But
yes,
the world is not ours. It's not ours. We cannot we cannot the link between the world and God is the Son of Man. He can tell us what the new year means.
Okay, so I just want us to focus first of all. What is the let's say the main point here. Okay, so which is actually the new year, and we should what is the significance, like we've talked about already. There's a spiritual purpose behind it, that we should there's spiritual aims we have, and also we have earthly aims. Sorry, Gregory, are you still there? Just thought there was something.
I'm listening.
You're listening. So, okay, I just want to bring you in, Gregory. Let me sort of formulate something from here. So, let's talk about the natural laws that, like I say, we sow, we know we sow, and then, in a way, there is going to be a reaping. So, are we living at a time, let's say, and I mentioned it earlier actually, in Australia currently, there's all these fires. It's really quite serious. basically it's covered every state of Australia, and it's like unprecedented what's going on there. They can't actually seem to find a way to sort of how can I say, clear the fires, and then it's basically been very dry summer and no rain, and then it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So I know that's a physical happening, and there is also this climate change that is like an emergency that people are talking about. So can we say, is that a consequence of also spiritual actions that we have taken in the past, that is materializing in a material way? So are we living at a time where we are, let's say, sowing what we are reaping? And if you can tell us more about that.
Most of the activities that man undertakes unknowingly, they turn out to they have consequences or impact on the spiritual. And if you go about, digging up the earth, taking out carbon and polluting the air, it doesn't require any rocket science to know that before long, the impact that it will have physically is going to be devastating, sooner rather than later. These activities have been intellectual, but it has been a precipitation of spiritual volition or lack of it. So, whether we are aware that there are laws in creation or not, the effect in the long run is that these laws will always act, for there has been no human personality who breathes in and refuses to breathe out. There has been no human spirit who takes in food and refuses to pass out the waste. So these things are only, symptomatic of activities which abound in nature. And since these activities abound in nature and regulates nature, these patterns, one may refer to them as spiritual laws, or the laws of nature, or the laws of creation. So, having set something into motion, before long, it will complete its cycle and precipitates. So, when we start reaping some of these actions which we had put in place, which of course do affect the environment, when the time comes, we reap it. If we have a place where we fetch water and we empty that particular neighborhood of water, before long the whole place becomes dry and desertification will then spread. These are not rocket science. The terrible thing is that many a person has refused to observe these things. And when the repercussions then come, which is what we call returns, when they then abound, then another interpretation is given to it. Of course, the spiritual comes first. But what does man understand by spiritual? Many still have the idea of something abstracted, far, far away. The concept is not clear to many that they themselves, the inner core, which activates all these other things, is of spirit. Once that becomes very clear, then the way many make decisions will change. They will then see how they have impacted many of the processes in nature, how they have produced things like plastics, without due consideration of the consequences, and many other things they have done where they have distorted the products which is supposed to come into existence in nature, and now how radiations now collide and cause all sort of confusion. These radiations may be the radiations in the neighborhood, in the atmosphere, and all sorts of things. So it is the spirit that comes first. The inner man either is indolent, too indolent to observe these happenings and make amends, or it doesn't care. So this, what is referred to now as the new year, is only an opportunity, just like we have a new day, for the personality which is of spirit to observe and make use of these laws to his own benefit, not selfishly ignoring all other beings, but to see how things fit, such that he himself will not continue to bind himself to the consequences that it has precipitated. But making good use of these laws is able to uplift itself. Not only uplift himself or herself one-sidedly, but also all those who are in the same neighborhood or even in a distant neighborhood. For that is what peace is all about. Peace is the abundance of harmonious activity, not destructive activity. Not just saying it in a speech, but in one's activity, ensuring that indeed these activities are harmonious, uplifting, not enslaving others, but supporting all that exists in accordance with the will of Him that has granted the opportunity for all to experience.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for that. Dear listeners, I just want to remind you, you're listening to the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdrusheen. And as we know, it's New Year's Eve, so I wish everybody Happy New Year. And that is, in fact, is our topic tonight. Happy New Year. And you can join in the discussion with any question or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 313 66. And you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 313 66. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And dear listeners, if you want to get a copy of the Grail message or want to get some more information about the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. That's www.grail, I'll spell it, GRAIL, message, MESSAGE.com. And also I want to tell you, we're doing an introductory talk on the Grail message in central London in just about 2 weeks' time. It is Sunday, I'll get that right, Sunday the 12th of January, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And the address is, the place is called the Theosophical Society, and it's the room is reference library there on the first floor, and the address there is 50 Gloucester Place. That's I won't spell it, just say Gloucester Place, London, W1U 8EA, and the nearest underground is Baker Street. So it's 10 minutes walk from Baker Street Underground. So I'll say that again. So we are holding an introductory talk on the Grail message in just about 2 weeks' time on Sunday the 12th of January, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Theosophical Society in the reference library on the first floor there, and the address is 50 Gloucester Place, London, W1U 8EA, and it's 10 minutes walk from Baker Street Underground. And that's in central London. So anybody who's able to come, of course you're welcome. So we look forward to seeing you there. Okay, Mena, did you have anything else you'd like to ask or talk about? Okay, Mena, are you there? All right, maybe we've lost him for a little while. Gregory, so let's look at, let's look at our task really, because what is, we've talked about the natural laws. We have to work with the natural laws. So is the task of the human being to find the natural laws and sort of work with them? And then what we are meant to do? Are we, Jesus said, "What you sow, you shall reap." So are we meant to be like gardeners? In I don't mean it purely literally, but are we meant to look after this planet? Because we've been talking about the environment. Is that what is our task? Or is it more than that?
The first task of the human spirit is, or let me rephrase it, the first task of the human personality is to make use of its intuitive faculty in such a way that impressions from out of the spirit impact on the human intellect, and these impressions are then realized in a physical sense. That is the first task. Then and only then will many impressions from on high flow to it, the human spirit, in such a way, as long as that is maintained, many a thing will take on different forms. Peace and harmony, love, and all that you can consider to be of noble origin will flow seamlessly. As long as the human personality does not make use of the impressions that assail it from the higher realms or from the spirit, then it cannot talk of tasks, for it's like a ship which has no rudder. That means all impressions that assail it push it hither and thither, because it's unable to decide that which is of benefit. So it is no use pursuing other tasks when the first task has not been fulfilled. This task is not fulfilled either due to spiritual indolence, which then permits the intellect to take over and form very narrow boundaries. It is the intellect that will foment war. It is the intellect that will wish to have so much to itself and the others have nothing. It is the intellect that has war cries, whereas the spirit is gentle. So as long as one ignores
Bless you, Gregory.
As long as one ignores the impressions from the spirit, then war, destruction, hatred abound. So it is no use to say, I have made a New Year resolution. I'm striving after love. I'm going to be kind. All those ones are utterly useless. First, listen to the voice of the Spirit. Then every other thing will follow. For the voice of the Spirit, impressions, noble impressions, will be then guided to the human spirit, and the intellect, if is to fulfill its task, will then help to implement this. Then there will be no need for disharmony. There will be no need for hatred, for each one will see how in working together they support one another. Like it is said in the fire brigade, all for one and one for all. It will become very similar to the case of the piano or of the guitar, where there are different strings. And these strings, when they are played besides one another, produce many harmonies, which harmonies are pleasing to the personality. That is what is meant to be.
Thank you for that, Gregory.
It's good to Gregory has given everyone an insight as to how you prepare yourself for the new year. But the author quite correctly says that there is going to be more lamenting everywhere in all lands, and his word will be fulfilled. But it is for our own good, so that we could live happily in the years to come. We should know that when the Lord pronounces judgment, it actually is a period of purification. It is when you fail to get yourself purified that you would break. There's if you refuse to bend, you break. So that is it. It just tells you that it's not going to be easy. So when you come out with a call, Happy New Year, it's trying to avoid the facts. You're trying to face the facts that, it's for you to stand more conscious of yourself, what you do, and to face your challenges and be ready to improve on yourself. It's a challenging time, which the author has not denied.
Can I come in, please?
Yeah. Well,
the case is always that the words that have come from the work in the light of truth, the grail message by Abraham, are taken too superficially. Whatever he said, of course, holds. This holds as long as man strives to understand it from a spiritual standpoint. If man continues to hold an intellectual standpoint, then he or she has not grasped his words properly. And to grasp his word doesn't mean to accept them without checking. Far from it. It means to examine the words extensively, intensively. See how these are fulfilled in every day, every week, every month, every year, in a lifetime. That is vigorous examination, not just accepting without understanding, living in fear. For in his own motto, he said, go forward courageously. Courage is of the spirit. to pursue a path which, seen from the intellect or from the spirit, has dangers, but to pursue the path which leads to the luminous kingdom without fear, even if there seem to be danger. So, even when a purification is mentioned, that purification need not be terrible or conjure any terror to any human spirit who listens to his or her intuition. For when things are understood in a spiritual context, then one strives to adjust one's activities along the spiritual context. Then there is no confusion. Then there is no fear. That which would have brought terrible judgment now brings joy, now brings happiness. So when one hears a happy new year, it's only like a vow that the human spirit will strive in such a way that the returns of its activity will bring happiness, or will bring joy and happiness. It's only a wish to others, such that they themselves will listen to their intuition and implement these impressions accordingly. Then the year, then the month, then the day, then the second will be happy.
Thank you for that, Gregory.
Yeah,
Go on, Nana.
I agree with you, because the author clearly points out that man, he says want only challenges fate in order to recklessly remove the veil, right, to meet him defiantly. What is in store for him? So there is no saying that the laws, the reciprocal effect, the laws of reciprocal action are in operation and at a much faster rate, and that there's you cannot shy away from the fact that whatever you sow is what you're going to reap. But however, if you have done good deeds, it's only expected that you would also reap what is good. But it just tells you the truth about the new year.
Okay, so Gregory, I just want to break down a bit more what you've said. My question, you said you have to use your intuition sort of to tune in with what exactly is our task and what we're meant to do. We need to pick, but I want to start, like, how do we do that? Do we pray, ask for help? Because I will say most of us are not even conscious of who we are, that we are even a spirit, and yes, we might be aware we have an intuition, and then because you said that this intuition needs to tune in with what is, let's say, receiving from above, and so I was wondering, does that mean to make a prayer for asking for help like that, to be guided? And is that how we start? Because I cannot say for most of us that we are so tuned in that we can just use our intuition and straight away we know, oh yes, I need to do this or I need to do that. So do you think we should, as a first step, ask for help, as like a prayer for help?
Yeah, I would want to comment. Sorry, Gregory, before you comment. Yeah, it did. The author said, look, you must approach the Lord in humility. Without that, you would not be successful anywhere. There must be humility in everything man does. You cannot just face the fact of that, there's nothing, in front of you, that you just go home. I mean, it's risky and, how I call it now, conceitful to just strive into the new year without really putting yourself or planting yourself firmly to meet what is approaching, the storms that are approaching.
Okay, actually, that's another, what you have brought up there, Mena, is something we haven't gone into so much, but okay. So you are saying there are storms approaching. What you're pointing to, is there something happening that so let's say some ominous, because when you say that those words, it sounds like something ominous is happening. So maybe Mena, you can answer it. Are we living in a particular time where we need to get ready for this sort of ominous times?
Yeah, because the human spirit has lived, has gone through creation thousands of times. And, at this point in time, at the judgment, things are returning to be redeemed. And, well, that's why I should say, yeah, there are some good deeds, but, all the bad deeds will come. So, in humility, you could only open yourself to the good, bad, and the ugly.
Okay. So, all right. Okay. Yeah, Gregory, can you also sort of expand on the times we are living now?
First, there was a question, and I thought we should examine that questions correctly before maybe in the process of that, many others. And the question was, how should one, is it with intuition? I can't remember.
How do you use your intuition when should we pray and ask for help, for guidance, because the way you mention it, as if our intuition is already sharp and we know exactly what to do. And I would say in most cases we are not, first of all, we're not even aware that we are a spirit, and then there's an ability, a voice of the spirit called the intuition, which you've referred to. That's like a recognition, and then the next thing is using the intuition. And I would say many people are not really aware how to use their intuition, and to be aware that this is what they need to use. So how can we do that? Do we pray, ask for help?
Well, thanks for that particular question, which one senses has been disturbing many a person. That question is of utmost importance. First, look at the assumption that many have made, how difficult things are. Look at how they interact with their neighbors. The key thing here is that many a person has built up a mountain of wrong impressions, and things have become so confused that the streaming intuition, which should impact on man, is no more recognized. But take note, it is the individual that has built up the wrong impressions, or that has distorted everything, and has built a wall around himself with all sorts of wrong impression, going out, doing this or that, always imagining that the others are on the wrong path, and that only he himself is correct, without observing the processes in nature, which are so simple and direct. So, how should one use one's intuition? Very simple. First, demolish all the walls of impression, the mountains of the walls of impression that one's intellect has set up. Once those wrong impressions have been demolished, the intuition flares up naturally, and there should be no problem. It is the wrong notions that we have imbibed that forces us to take the wrong path. Instead of listening, we do not listen. Instead of being helpful, we are not helpful. We seek that which tends to destroy us. So, how should one use one's intuition? Very simple. First, demolish the walls that many have built around themselves. Then, voila, the intuition will take over. And then, gradually, the intellect will learn to adjust itself. That means it will not have the upper hand as it has been in the past.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I just want to clarify something there about the intellect, because you're saying demolish this walls which have, let's say, been built by the intellect. Now, are you saying that intellect is a bad thing, and we shouldn't? Let's make a little bit equivalent. I know it's not perfect, but let's say the intellect is when we use our head, and intuition is when we use our heart. If that's like a simple analogy people are aware of. Although I know it's not perfect. I want listeners not to, let's say, take everything. Everything must be examined, as Gregory has said over and over. So if I just make that as just a simpler analogy for now, just to assess this matter. So we are saying, are we saying, Gregory, that we should not listen to the intellect at all? We should just demolish everything the intellect brings and only listen to our heart, our intuition?
Sorry, that is not what one is saying. What is stressed here is that whatever you come across must be examined rigorously. At the initial stages, it requires quite some strength and patience. But what has happened, we come across a situation, or a situation comes across to us, and without quite reflection, we make decisions which before too long turns out to be counterproductive, decisions which are not of value or of benefit. I will read out a little passage where we find that most of the time we hold the notion of how it was in the past, what has been passed down to us without us examining it. And those things which have been passed down to us without examination we call belief. So what is stressed here is that belief must be examined. Belief must become conviction. In the work in the light of truth for your guidance, the author made it very clear. For one to be awake, that means allow one's intuition to be astir. He said, therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. That is what one is referring to. Let the Spirit weigh inflexibly. Let the Spirit do the examination. Once that has taken place, the intellect, which is the frontal brain, now carries out the activities. But the innate decision can only be made with the Spirit. It is the Spirit decision that holds. It is that which really brings karma. It is that which makes sure the returns are either uplifting or presses it down. So there must be conviction. It doesn't occur overnight, but through careful observation, through careful weighing and examination, before too long, one reaches there. one of the key things which is required is patience and perseverance.
Thank you.
With many things of the intellect, you may go to an institution to learn about engineering, to learn about science, to learn about the arts. Where is the school that you go to learn about patience? Where is the school that you go to learn about perseverance? There is only one. That's of the activities in creation where the spirit is able to take these impressions that are solid from the outside, examine it in accordance with the laws of creation, and then make the decisions because it needs to benefit from it in order to grow strong and edge step by step towards its initial origin consciously. So that which is of benefit, the spirit will take.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for really going deeply into that and, step by step, clearing that. So, explaining that. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and it's New Year's Eve. And so I wish you a Happy New Year. The aim of the show, as you already know, it's to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And if you're interested in getting a copy of the Grail message or want some information, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight, I'm sure you will not be surprised to hear it. It's Happy New Year. So you can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Mena, I think you wanted to come in. Am I correct?
Just quickly, Gregory gave a good analysis of, how the spirit has to work in line with the intellect, because all impressions from the outer world should go back to the spirit and the intuitive perception to get a understanding of the impression and back to the intellect for implementation. Now, we're going back to the new year. We should concern ourselves with, how we should get prepared to face the challenges which will inevitably assail us. And it's the Lord's wish that we be strong and be humble and yearn for peace.
Yes, that's very, I can fully sort of see that if you're not being humble, let's say you can't be helped really, you will just do what you think, and then guess what? How much do we know? We did not, so it's really, that one is like, you say that is the first step. If you're not humble, then you can't go very far at all. So yeah, thank you for that. And can you just remind me the other one you said, just to?
Yeah, we're yearning for peace.
Yearning for peace. Yeah. That's like, when I look at that, it's like something that is implanted in us to. Everybody's wanting to have this peace inside, So yes, okay. So then, thank you for that as well. And
When it's a yearning for peace, it's good, to actually go a step further. That, when you are wishing, when you have this volition to actually have a concept manifest in creation, it's not just by uttering it, it's not just by, pronouncing it into creation. Although that is, people, the personality of the Lord is quite different from man. But man has to act. Man has to act what he does. He has to go a step further to actually implement peace in and around him. It will be pointless just to wish peace when you yourself cannot say good morning to your neighbor. You must begin to express this peace as a deed. Tidy your environment. Be good to your neighbors. I mean, this is the prescription. This is what the Lord asks you to do. It's not just to sit and make a yearning, send cards that are pointless and meaningless to one another, but to really express it as a deed.
Okay, yes, that's yeah. I mean, I don't say that sending card is a bad thing, but what you're saying is it must be deeper than that. Yes.
It must be deeper than that, and it's becoming, a tradition now that you can get almost 100 cards, at your doorstep. What for? I mean, if you really want to, if you're really wishing someone a happy new year, there are many ways that you can express it. There are more physical ways. I mean, you could do that. Say good morning. I mean, it's much more than a card with so many letterings which are just wishy-washy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's look at I want to look at the future, really. Let's Gregory, looking at the world, would you say, because this is all, Happy New Year is all about looking into the future, and when we started the show, we said it's about planning, and because obviously if you don't plan, then don't be surprised things don't happen, they don't work out. So what are we, Gregory, what's like the future of, let's say, let's start firstly with the earthly, and then we can look at the spiritual. So, I know we have referred to this already about the climate change and so on, this sort of, let's say, disasters that are happening. Gregory, would you say on the earth, let's say, plane, is there any hope or bright future ahead? Or is it only disaster that we can foresee now because of the way man has behaved or humanity has behaved?
That's a very good question. One may say it is catastrophic if and only if mankind do not take the necessary steps now. For the day you plant your crops, and it's not the same day you reap it, it takes a period of time for the crops to grow, mature, and then you do the reaping. Therefore, when the expression "a happy new year," which is only a wish, it only means that may you plant your activities in such a way that the returns will precipitate happiness instead of sadness. Therefore, if our activities are such that we are sowing sadness, then it becomes very clear that when a person has sown sadness, he himself cannot reap happiness. If, on the other hand, one has planned vigorously for happiness by sowing the right crops and taking the necessary precautions, then the future is most likely to be bright. However, you did mention that first one should look at the earthly affairs. It should be very clear that there is no separation between when it comes to the future or what happens to this earth with regards to that of the spirit. For these activities, when sown, on the long run, it is they that gather pace, mature, and then precipitate the happiness which we ourselves have put in place, or the terrible sadness and catastrophe which we have put in place. So, if right now we are devastating our forests through fires or through one thing or the other, how do we then expect to have a happy future when we ourselves have sown such terrible seeds by destroying our forests and devastating our neighborhood? So, first, each personality must consider that which is long-lasting. That which is long-lasting is of spirit, and that is one that really holds. So, let us in our activities prepare for the future by doing that which is right, which will bring benefit to us before too long.
Thank you for that. And then, I know you said the spiritual and the earthly are sort of, I don't know if the right word is connected, maybe is the word I want to use. And so it's all, you can't look at it like separately. So, but now I want to look at, we looked at the sort of the earthly future, you can say. Now let us look for the spiritual future. Would you say that man is, or humanity, first of all, are we, technologically and otherwise, in the material way or earthly way, we seem to be moving forward and progressing. Are we also moving forward in the spiritual sense? And if not, how can we, find that way, that the let's say uplifting way forward? Because, how is the let's say the spiritual situation for us? Let's start with that first.
The spiritual situation or the state of affairs spiritually is devastating. For if it were not, how come we have all these nuclear weapons abounding everywhere? And each one, the armament industry is that which is striving, where there are wars here and there. So spiritually, what has happened is that the inner maturity is such that the human spirit is not strong enough to pursue peace. What real peace is. Peace which requires inner movement in harmony with his neighborhood, which neighborhood also contains other beings and also fellow human spirit. Because it is not matured, or it hasn't exhibited that maturity, it manufactures weapons, suspecting that the neighbors have weapons of destruction. So it wants to strike first. But as we now know, destroying one part of the planet doesn't end there. And that the wind system is such that if there's a problem in one part, it also have impact on another part. So there is no self-contained part here on earth. Where the human spirit matured enough, this will become very, very clear, and it will strive in such a way as to ensure that each person that has incarnated on earth is helped and provided the opportunity to experience accordingly. For, like has been stressed, in a fire scenario, it is one for all and all for one. Look at very carefully the way we have the mineral deposits on the earth plane, where one nation has to rely on another nation to supply this or that, and then they can get on. Now consider the introduction of so-called money, where one nation can print as much paper without doing anything and passes that paper to another. Would you call that one maturity, spiritual maturity? Right? Would you call it spiritual maturity when arms, devastating arms, prevail anywhere, where guns prevail everywhere, where human spirit can pick up a gun and shoot any other person? Were that the case, were guns permitted those in those days, and where the human spirit can manufacture any destructive material, then the earth will not be existing. These opportunities granted to the human spirit to mature were made out of love and out of peace. Yet, what one experiences here on earth is intense hatred and different types of war. So, would one say the future spiritually is great for the human spirit when it, the human spirit, emanates or gives rise to all this warmongering and destruction? The future is bleak. But should it change its views or change its ways and considers that which is of benefit to the spirit, then the future becomes bright and the future will bring happiness.
Thank you.
That's a very good summary, because we're just really echoing what the Lord says. Man is just impossible. We just have harbor that hate, grudges, envy, hatred towards our fellow men, begrudging them, and that is how we approach the new year, and how we can capitalize on our neighbor, and reap profits. That's the name they give it. Instead of earning a decent wage, they are more interested in having profits and enrichment, which and more material.
Thank you. So now, Greg, you've painted such a bleak picture, and we are using the word Happy New Year, which seems to be inconsistent with that bleak picture. And so, is there any hope really for man to be saved? I mean, does does Almighty God have to intervene now, to save us, or it's like a hopeless case now, where it's like there's a point of no return, where we've now set out on a particular path, and there's not enough time to turn back anymore. So, can the situation be salvaged? Yeah.
First, it is not a bleak picture. It is the state of affairs based on the conditions if there is the continuity as one had in the past, where hatred, envy, destruction, if it persists, then the future is bleak, and many a human spirit through their activities will be wiped out. If, on the other hand, there is the true concept of love, where one serves the other, supports the other, where hatred is not the basis for continuity, and also, from the other hand, we have the state where peace, not the peace of the graveyard, but the dynamic peace, which sort of harmonizes through upbuilding, supports the environment, and supports the human spirit that have incarnated. In such a scenario, where there is love and persistent and patience, gradual upbuilding, then subsequently the returns will be such that they build up and they bring happiness instead of sadness. So the human spirit must realize it has the free will, like has been said again and again. To be or not to be has never been the question. It is how to be, and how to be lies in the walk in the light of truth, the grave message. Should man pick up the courage to examine this spiritually and see the workings in everyday life and adjust itself in accordance with its creator's will, then only happiness, joy will abound subsequently.
Thank you so much, Gregory. I want to take this opportunity to, coming to the new year, to actually read this reference that you have already made reference to, actually, for your guidance, which is at the beginning of the Grail message. If I can read it out to the listeners, I think it's very appropriate for, to bring focus to what we have been talking about. And we are almost to the end of the show as well. So I'm going to read this. It is, like you could say, the first page of the Grail message, and it's entitled "For Your Guidance." The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. I'll just start again. Apologies for that. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent. He is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abdushin. So, dear listeners, I really urge you to pick up a copy of the Grail Message. If you want to start on a new path, on a new year, I certainly recommend this will be a help, definitely be a help to you. And if you are interested to get a copy of this Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And just want to remind you, we are holding a introductory talk on the Grail Message in central London in just about 2 weeks' time, which is on Sunday, the 12th of January, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And it's going to be at the Theosophical Society in the reference library there on the first floor. And the address is 50 Gloucester Place, London, W1U 8EA. And the nearest underground is Baker Street, 10 minutes walk from Baker Street underground. So you're welcome to come to that in just about 2 weeks' time. And hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. I'm going to ask my two colleagues to say goodbye. And yes, so I'm going to start with you, Gregory. Anything you'd like to say to the listeners?
Well, wishing them a beautiful new year filled with joyful challenges.
Thank you for that. Sounds a beautiful wish. And Mena, what would you like to say to our listeners?
The Lord admonishes you to greet the new year in joyful earnestness. Don't be superficial about it.
Joyful earnestness, and don't be superficial. Yes, I can definitely accept that. Yes, thank you for that. So, dear listeners, thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday with another new topic. And I wish you all a great week. Of course, Happy New Year and God bless. All the best, everyone. Take care.